Folks, this is Alex. Welcome to ThursdAI for November 13th, 2025. Can you believe it? We had a packed show today. In open source, we have Terminal Bench with a new bar for agent evals. Baidu released Ernie 4.5 VL, which is a 3 billion active parameter and punching way above its weights. Weibo, the Chinese Twitter, dropping the Vibe Thinker 1.5, Qwen Fine-Tune, beating DeepSeek on math, which is, we'll see, and Code Arena letting models build web apps live to compete. With a ton of big company news as well, GPT released 5.1, finally an upgrade from GPT. It has a much warmer voice and personalities, it's pretty cool. And Grok 4 Fast apparently now has 2 million context window tokens, which is crazy. I used it and I showed an example of how to use it in the show as well. And Gemini Live updated voice updates. In this week's Buzz, we had Dima from the SDK team showing us their side project called Leet. It's a terminal native dashboard for your runs, even offline ones. Dima did a cool demo for us, and you definitely should stay tuned for that. We also had Paul from 11 Labs talk about their Scribe auto model, which they launched, Scribe 2 live, with a cool demo of transcription. Generally, a very cool show this week with tons of AI content. Let's dive right in. Open source AI, let's get it started. Alrighty, it's time for us to get started. And with open source AI, we'll start with Terminal Bench. So we've mentioned Terminal Bench a bunch in the past. And as you guys know, we're looking at different agents that can control your computer and also solve tasks as well. And the Terminal Bench is one of the main hard ones now for agents to be able to solve terminal focus tasks. The Terminal Bench is a second version that's much harder, and it consists of 89 hard tasks to test these capabilities. The very cool thing about Terminal Bench is that you can get another example of which top models are doing the stuff that AI coding agents are really, really good at. And you can see in the recent chart, this chart has been updated. I think the Warp got a higher score here than Codex CLI. Warp is the console, the agentic console, and it got 50%. So this Terminal Bench is an agent performance evaluation thing. Each task received several hours of human and LLM assisted verification to ensure the tasks are solvable and realistic. Some of these benchmarks, folks, they scrape GitHub, and some of them are not solvable. Like, this is the reason, if you guys remember SWE-bench, SWE-bench, then this is the reason why there's like multiple versions. This is SWE-bench verified, SWE-bench hard, SWE-bench ultra from scale. I don't remember the exact name, because sometimes these AIs get lost in the type of the questions. So the new leaderboard for Terminal Bench shows Codex CLI and Warp on top, and GPT-5 with 49% or so. And I think it's a good one to monitor and watch.
They also stated that they have 1,000 contributors for this on their Discord, which is amazing if you think about the number of people involved. So that is a benchmark to watch, yep.
Yeah, 100%. So shout out to these folks. I also wanted to mention there is a Weave integration in there as well. It's sitting in the PR. So shout out to the folks on the website who built it.
Yeah, just if I can add, like, just to give people perspective of what exactly are the models being tested on. You can see the leaderboard here, but here you can see the actual questions, the actual challenges, one after the other, what exactly the models are being tested on. There are plenty of them. And just for example, like, these models are running in the terminal. So these tasks are targeting use cases that are very hard, but realistic. That's the prompt. I just made some changes to my personal site and I checked out to master and broke the entire thing. So help me out. And you know, it's a Git problem. It can be hard. It can be tough also for models. And it's very realistic. It happens all the time. Again, workflow hack and implement GPT-2 code goal with the least amount of code possible. And you measure it by, obviously, it's very obvious what you're measured by. These are the things that those models are being tested on. The thing is that these benchmarks are getting more robust, getting more questions, because over time, models just become better and better. And it's really cool to see initiatives like Terminal Bench taking this to the next level and saying, all right, we're going to iterate as well. Once you solve our benchmark, we're going to make a new one, which is harder. We're committed to this. We got a huge community, and this is how you get models that are so good, like Cloud Code or Codex, that are running on your computer and can actually do stuff. So really, really cool. This is good.
Thank you, Jan. This was a great coverage, folks. Terminal Bench definitely is the one to watch because the second version is harder. And the top models are only getting 50%. I think it's worth mentioning. The top score right now on Terminal Bench is Warp, the agentic ID that I really like, is the top score right now is 50%. We love scores that are 50%. We used to talk to you about MMLU and AIME 25, and those are like 99% saturation. When we see improvements in 0.1 scores, and that's like almost effectively meaningless. So those benchmarks are effectively saturated, which means there's no difference between the new models. Terminal Bench is 50%. Humanity's last exam is not going to be last for long, but also like the top models there don't get like a crazy score yet. So those benchmarks are important. Shout out to Terminal Bench folks for open sourcing and working on this and the hardness as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's much more meaningful to optimize the benchmark where everyone is 50% on than to chase, 4 basis points out of a score that is already 90 something. We really need to look into what questions exactly are those 50% errors coming from. Because I don't know if we can see the exact questions. I tried to look for them, but I didn't. But it's really interesting to see because probably I guess that there are full use cases that simply are not covered, like a full chunk of kind of the same use cases that are not covered. And now that, they are mapped into a benchmark, everyone is going to bench max this thing. And these are use cases. So it's really cool to see. But yeah, absolutely.
I think worth mentioning on this topic that we sometimes mention a benchmark called OS World. It was released in 2024. And like Yam, you're saying it's very important to look at the questions. Somebody actually, I think last week, looked at the questions in OS World and discovered the OS World does not exist as a concept. Like there's no one score. The questions there are difficult to the point where they're not reproducible. There's multiple versions of this OS World that people don't really report. So effectively, they're claimed that this benchmark is meaningless because everybody who posts like a score, the score is not comparable to others because it's not replicable. So Terminal Bench, for example, is a good example of a replicable and harness like eval that will return the same score if you run the same model on the same thing, which is very important if you think about this. In the agentic world specifically, because all these agents with temperature higher than 0 will return sometimes different results. So it's honestly an art to be able to give us reducible scores. And we give companies shit for releasing sometimes a model with no benchmarks, but imagine how much work additional to the training of the model goes into benchmarking and releasing reliable scores, which is something that we also deeply understand here at Weights and Biases. And so shout out to Terminal Bench.
Especially when it's interactive. You need to write code, then you run the code and you need to check the output. It's not just chat completion. You're not picking an answer. That thing is interactive and you write code and somebody needs to run the code and check your output 100%. That's just complicated on its own to execute this in a replicable way.
Yeah.
I don't know, if you one token off, you break half of the models. Like that's not easy to make a fair benchmark at all.
Wolfram, I want you to chime in here as the
so these one-shot tests that are usually done in the benchmarks where you have a question and answer and you can verify if it achieves it, that is usually just a theoretical concept. And in the practical world, you are iterating on these things. And the same thing happens with if you make a benchmark and it gets used by models that you don't have control over, then it should be considered leaked. And then you need a new version. But once you have a new version, you can't compare the scores anymore directly. If you add new questions, if you change anything at the benchmark, you can't directly compare anymore because that could have a different outcome. And you need to iterate on multiple, do multiple runs. Like Alex mentioned, the temperature 0, even at temperature 0, you get different results due to optimization, benchmark, driver issues and stuff. I had seen issues where a new driver version totally changed. So there are so many factors. And you need to know all the variables if you want to make a very useful benchmark. If you 100%. Change one variable, it cannot be compared anymore. That is, you need all these details.
This is kind of an argument for using the same tested benchmarks that people already know and love, right? Because they've been tested a while and people are comparing the same ones. OS World specifically. Shout out to Epoch AI for looking at this thing. You guys should definitely give them a follow. They are doing these evaluations of evaluations, meta evaluations, basically. And they're saying that OS World is 361 computer use tasks. Many of them don't require even and the contamination risk is medium. So very interesting.
Just a quick Harbor, since we mentioned Harbor, which is in containers. So that is also important for benchmarking. If you want to compare the benchmarks, you need to have the same drivers even on different same software. So having it containerized is a very important thing to make it usable and comparable.
Harbor from Terminal Bench is their harness for running sandbox containered agent rollouts at scale. And I think, like Wolfram says, it's very important because you have to run them on the same environment as well, because even the environment changes the results of the benchmark. Folks, let's talk about Baidu, Ernie 4.5 VL, and apparently Ernie 5 LDJ. Baidu has been around us for a while. Folks, we talked about Ernie, the series of models. They started out as closed source, but somebody in Baidu realized that folks like DeepSeek and Qwen are leapfrogging them in the Chinese open source and decided to start releasing their models publicly. We'll start with Baidu Ernie VL with 3 billion parameter. It's a reasoning model with 3 billion parameters. What's interesting about this? They claim to outperform closed source models like Gemini 2.5 Pro with just 3 billion thinking parameters. Again, we're looking at some of these evals, and MMMU, for example, they're claiming oof this chart. But okay, so Baidu is getting very close to GPT-5. Oh, this is GPT-5 high. Oh, that's high reasoning. This is a 3 billion parameter model, competes with GPT-5 high on visual stuff, folks.
Wait, what do you mean? I must say, what are we measuring?
Take a look.
I understand. I agree. I believe you. Just what exactly are we measuring where you're outperforming GPT-5? Let's see.
We're landing at some Chinese 404. No, hopefully the Hugging Face is up.
We ended up in the.
Yeah, it looks like I. Yeah, let me go find this. Folks, verify that your AI assistants put actual links in your stuff. Let's talk. Okay, here's the actual chart. Let's take a look. Yeah. So Math Vista and Math Vision and MMMU. MMMU, they're pretty far away still. Okay, so like 72% at the 3 billion parameter versus Gemini 5 high. GPT-5 high. Gemini 5 is not a thing. There's a new benchmark here that says VLMs are blind. That's very interesting, and they're claiming to have a bigger one. I haven't heard about this one. These are all like visual QA tasks. Simple VQA and Hallucin Bench. Very interesting. Video understanding. Oh, this is a video understanding model as well. We can probably just test this model live super quick. Okay. They have a demo. Let's see if this demo works. It's a Hugging Face demo. How much did GPT-5 I get on LLMs are blind bench? This is a visual model, so we can send it some stuff and see if it's fast. They have a demo on Hugging Face, but this is an open source model. It's an MIT license, I believe. Small vision thinker that's supposed to run like super quick. What's interesting in there as well is they have highlights include thinking with images, interactive zooming, spatial grounding, which is what GPT-5 used to have. And this is a reasoning model, so it runs reasoning. Based on the chart, GPT-5 scored 69.6 on the LLMs are blind benchmarks. Do you guys think this is true? Let's take a look at this. I need that image in a new tab so I can zoom in. Where are we? LLMs are blind. Okay. Yeah, it can read charts. With the 3 billion parameters, I got the right score on LLMs are blind. GPT-5 gets 69.6%.
Let's just give you a screenshot of an article, a paper, something that you need to convert into text and ask it an equation, a table, something to reproduce it or something.
I think it's a visual model, so like it will tell you some stuff. So I don't know if this is its strength, but let's take a look.
We know about this. I mean, how do you get 3 billion parameters to be this good on vision? Vision specifically is, I don't know, it's weird. We always get tiny models that are crazy good.
We're getting better and better at vision, 100%. There's no doubt about that. I don't think they have posted anything besides the post, but let's see what Twitter has to say. This is the thing that I wanted to highlight. Innovative thinking with images. It can zoom, analyze, and reason visually. Famously, GPT-5, when it was launched, did the same thing. They had the tools that zoom into images and kind of look around and move them around to have a better understanding. This has also, it's a reasoning model, so it has built-in tool calling for dynamic interaction. It's open source with Apache license, I believe. Yeah, Apache 2. Multimodal reinforcement learning, GSPO, and IcePop strategies, which I haven't heard about GSPO.
So many variants.
Spatial grounding for real-world tasks. Let's take a look. Dude, it's really honestly impressive. I just gave it the chart for folks who are just listening. Just gave it the chart from a breaking news release that we're going to talk about in a second. And it gave me a summary based on the provided charts. Here's a summary of the scores. The Web Voyager benchmark shows the Holo models performing significantly better than the Qwen models. Holo is from the H company, the French H company just released, performed 83%. Yeah, it reads charts like crazy, like nobody's business. This chart is not like easy to read for me even on the screen.
By the way, GSPO is the new version of GRPO that was made by Qwen. It's group sequence policy optimization. It was a paper released by the Qwen people.
Oh, so it looks like these folks already used it, which is great. I want to summarize the news from Holo super quick, because shout out to Lincoln who posted us some breaking news from Holo 2, but I haven't seen any release for Holo 2. All right, while this happens, let's hit the breaking news button because we have breaking news in open source. AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. Alrighty, folks, breaking news from this week, from November 13th. We just got a brand new spanky release from the H Company. H Company does computer use agents and visual agents. They were releasing Holo 2, the next generation multimodal family built on grounding, navigation, reasoning across web, desktop, and mobile. So it's open source. State-of-the-art performance on ScreenSpot Pro. Apache 2, thank you. And we were just talking about OS World, but this is an OS World G version. I don't know what this one is. So we're going to take a look. Maybe somebody cleaned up OS World. 76% on OS World. Let's take a look at some graphs as well. Computer use performance, powered by Holo 2. Surfer outperforms predecessors as well as open source baselines across computer use benchmarks. Web Voyager, Web Arena, the same OS World that we just talked about that's not super reliable. It's a fine-tune of Qwen 3 VL, drop-in replacement for Holo 1, the previous ones. Mixture of experts, but this is basically the result of Qwen 3. Apache 2 license, 4B and 8B models, 30B and 30B A3B. So 30B MOE is a non-commercial model. Let's take a look at some stats here. OS World G, which we need to go and take a look at. Holo 2
seems to be a state-of-the-art
on some models that
stuff on screen.
Yes, but on some models that are not necessarily like it's okay. Here it compares with Qwen 3 VL thinking, and here they just compare it to themselves and Qwen VL, which this is a fine tune of Qwen VL. So they're showing that they're fine tuned well. But let's go back super quick to Ernie VL that we just talked about, and Ernie compares to major foundational models like Gemini 2.5 Pro and GPT-5 High, which is the comparison I would like. All right, this is it for breaking news. Meanwhile, let's see if our agent was able to get us a thing. And yeah, I think that we have an update.
Alex agent maxing now. Everything is an agent.
But dude, you saw I just clicked the link and fucking didn't open the right link. So I don't know if like it I don't know if AGI is here, folks. I don't know if AGI is AGI in the center.
How well does it this job?
Actually, yeah, like if you build an agent, you definitely have to evaluate this. And if you evaluate this, please use Weights and Biases Weave for this, and which I haven't. And I have a demo for you at this week's Buzz. All right, folks, we're still at the open source and we're like nearing the 1 hour into the show. So let's go and talk about Project Ayla. Project Ayla, which I think since then was rebranded. Because of thank you, name shadowing is the exact right reason why this was rebranded. It's a partnership with Lion AI, which I love that Lion is still around. Truly open AI. They were the foundation for stable diffusion with their training of the model and the comparison of data sets. They're doing like open source for real. This is a open source initiative to make scientific research accessible. They summarized 100,000 papers, I think, on archive, and this is how it looks. This is a pretty cool like semantic embedding cloud. They fine-tuned 2 LLMs on top of this scientific research, which we can take a look at because they also released these models on Hugging Face. This is the visualizer, Science Data Explorer, blah blah. We can take a look at the data set. This I just love embedding. I don't know what the axis here. I just love embedding visualization, so you guys can see how cool this is. Science Data Explorer. We can take a look at material science, for example. This is the papers for material science. And what do you have to say about this topic?
I mean, it's very useful to have embeddings for entire archive. I wanted to do it myself back in the day, not long ago. So yeah, it's very useful. But I'm not sure that we can understand anything too deep from these plots, like you're saying. Like, what are the axes? Well, it's projection to 3D, kind of.
I was just saying, the visualization is the least interesting part about this. They released it in open source, which we love. They released models with it. They call it inference models. They released Ellen Imotron 12B and Qwen 14B. So this is a fine-tuned model, specialized for generating structured summaries of scientific research papers in JSON format. So a very specific format for scientific summary. I've been trying to get at my summaries and been honing my prompts. They built lecture models. They created the original dataset, which is about 100 million scrapped scientific and research articles on inference.net. And then they fine-tuned these models. So we saw the Live Explorer. I just wanted to highlight that this is a very cool release from folks who did some very good work. They show some examples. Like, folks, honestly, like if you tune into the ThursdAI show to understand which models to use, I don't think that these models are for you to use for anything else unless you are summarizing this. This is like a very fine-tuned specific example. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these models are best, but like what they're showing is average score on their own summary. What they're saying is GPT-5 is the best summarizer, but their models are scoring higher than the regular models, even Gemini 2.5 Pro. So that's great. So they released the dataset, a huge dataset, 100 million paper corpus. They summarized all of them with a specific LLM. This is a one hell of a research effort. All right, folks, we are moving forward because we have to finish up. Like we have 5 minutes left for open source. I wanted to talk about Vibe Thinker. This is Weibo. Weibo is the Chinese Twitter, essentially. And they have released I think this one is a Qwen. I think this is a Qwen tune. We can take a look at the Hugging Face link if the link works for us. Yes, this is a Qwen 2.5 fine tune. This is Vibe Thinker 1.5 billion parameters. It's very impressive. Look at this. On AIME 24, I don't trust 24 anymore. AIME is competition math. If you guys remember, 24 is leaked at this point to oblivion. So any company that posts AIME 24, even 25 is already leaked with the tiny, tiny model outbidding major models. That's a red flag for me at this point. But hey, we can take a look.
I don't know. I just want to say,
This is a 1.5 billion parameter model, supposedly beating DeepSeek R1 from earlier this year, maybe a year ago. Well, a year ago is crazy, but folks, we're looking at very, very bold claims of a fine-tune of Qwen, getting higher scores on some of these things as math, which thinking models are really good at, than a 651 billion parameter model, and then GPT OSS 20 billion. These are bold claims. Wolfram, what's your gut check on this? What's your gut say on this Vibe Thinker?
Yeah, it's a small model in the end, so it has to be used for this specific part. If you need it, and then it makes sense. But otherwise, it's not a model that will be very popular in wide circles, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but look, they are claiming 55% on live code bench. Like apparently it can write pretty decent code. I mean, this is what we're looking at.
Yeah,
so,
live code bench 55
even if you use it for its use case, that's a stretch.
I do wonder how much, because it's a reasoning model, they say, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder how many reasoning tokens is it using, because it does make it a bit more realistic to me if this is, let's say this is using like 1 million reasoning tokens or something. So like, you know, that kind of changes the equation a bit of the inference compute, because, you know, a 10 times larger model using 100 times less reasoning tokens, you know, like the comparison starts to change a lot there. But still impressive regardless, I think, no matter how many reasoning tokens it's using.
Yeah, it doesn't look like tons of folks on X are replying to this a positive way. Folks are calling independent evaluations, which is what we're saying basically as well. All right, so shout out to Weibo for this. It's on Hugging Face, folks. If you want to check it out, 1.5 is there. I think we pretty much covered open source. Ernie 5 was not open source, right? Was it? No, no open source.
Okay. Oh, there is something I think we're missing.
Tell us.
So Playus from France, they've released 2 cool small models that are both open source called Monad and Baguetotron. I see Yam nodding. He probably remembers it too. Here, I'll put the link in the side chat. But these are really interesting. Baguetotron is about 300 million parameters. And then Monad is a 50 million parameter transformer. And it's a really interesting architecture here. The 300 million parameter model is about, even though it's only 300 million parameters, they made it 80 layers.
All right. So Monad from, I think it's from Alexander Doria. I think you're talking about Synth, right?
So both of them are trained on Synth. And I think in that same thread of where you might be seeing Synth mentioned, they also mention Monad and Baguetotron.
LJ, unfortunately, we have to move
Go
forward.
ahead. Let's move on.
Yeah, we have to move forward because we have two guests on the show. We will say hi to Paul Asjes and Dima Duev, which both of them showed up at the same time. So we'll first talk with Paul about the 11 Labs release, and Dima, we'll get to you and talk about Leet a little bit in a moment. Paul, the reason why you're here is because you work at 11 Labs. You guys released a cool thing. Let's chat with you a little bit about the cool thing that you guys released, and maybe take a look at this.
Yes. Hello. Hi, I'm Paul. I am an engineer at 11 Labs, as stated here. Great to be here. Wonderful to see you all.
Welcome.
Yeah, we did a thing this week. We launched on, Tuesday, something called Scribe V2 Realtime. So if you're unaware of who 11 Labs are, we are an audio AI engineering company. So we do everything that is to do with sound, which is both, text to speech, speech to text, voice agents, music, sound effects, all that wonderful stuff. But what we launched recently is earlier this year, we launched something called Scribe V1, which is a state-of-the-art speech-to-text model. And then on Tuesday, we launched the thing most people have been asking for, which is a real-time version of that. So what this is it's super fast, around 150 milliseconds, where you talk into a mic or you give an audio file, and it'll just transcribe exactly what you're saying in over 90 different languages with a very low WER or word error rate.
Paul, first of all, thank you so much for coming. We talked about 11 Labs. Folks who are familiar with 11 Labs know 11 Labs as the place to generate the voices, right? As the place to do the other side of, let's say, the agentic voice chat end-to-end flow, where you basically give some text and the model just says it with different sounds. We covered the custom voices thing that was like last Halloween, I believe, customized voices with a prompt, for example. And 11 Labs, what are you guys doing in the ASR world? Like, how and why are you stepping into the place where Whisper is and where, other companies like, tell us.
Excellent question. So the reason we're doing this, the reason where this kind of sprung from is when you're building something that we're very interested in right now, which is like a voice AI, a voice agent, you generally need three components to do that. You need the text to speech, which we've kind of been doing for a while. You need the brain, which is the LLM behind it, but then you also need something to turn human speech into text that the LLM can then consume. And this is the same for every single LLM out there. It needs this kind of component. So 11 Labs, we're spending a lot of time and energy and money building our agents platform out. And a part of that is this speech to text component. So short answer, we needed it ourselves because we have this. And we figured that we built such a good model that we figured we should be releasing this as an API for other people to use for their own purposes.
That's so cool. Dude, how about the demo? I played with the demo a little bit and I was like very, very excited. And I also wanted to overlay this here. Would you be able to give us that demo that I saw? And this is why I invited you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen real quick.
Yes, we'll bring it up. And then we'll bring up back the host here to discuss this because I think it is pretty cool. And also, you mentioned the amount of languages that it supports, so we definitely can look at the translation component there as well.
So hopefully you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Excellent, fantastic. So here is a demo we put together. My colleague Thor did this actually. What this is it's called captions.events. And the idea was that you could have something like this for a presentation or a conference where you could have the speaker be live transcribed as they are giving a presentation. So let me start this off.
This is a real website. Folks can access this at caption.events.
So you'll notice that as I'm talking, the words are appearing at the bottom over there. And what it's doing here is that it's going to detect the language automatically. And you see it showing up on the right-hand side as well. So like in viewer mode, this is going to show up very fast. But what's fun about this model is that it's context aware as well. So not only is it super accurate, but it can actually do different languages. So for instance, I'm from the Netherlands, so I can actually speak in Dutch and it will start to transcribe in Dutch as well. En dat ga ik nu doen. Ik ga nu in het Nederlands praten en dan zie je zo meteen dat hij alsnog gaat...
This is so cool. So just super quick for folks who are listening, the Paul was talking. Basically, it live transcribed everything he was saying with real time. And then he switched into Dutch and then saw another section that started just with translation. And it auto switched and he didn't have to press any buttons to tell it what to do. It's basically we're saying like, hey, the transcription should be in English. And it looks like your computer doesn't capture what I'm saying, obviously, because of, you're tuning into the show, but it would work for multiple speakers as well, I believe. When I was playing with this, I had Spotify on and then it transcribed the whole song, which is very cool.
Yep. Right now I've got echo cancellation on, so that's why it's not picking up you over my speakers, but it works pretty well for me speaking into my own microphone.
Yeah. This is really cool. And this is like nearly real time. So this is able to get streamed into an LLM as I'm speaking, I'm assuming, so that this agent that I'm building will be able to also reply to me with 11 Labs. This was built also with the Superbase real-time. Shout out to Superbase, friends of the pod for sure. Paul, thank you so much for the demo. Translation also is something that you did like one-way translation when you started speaking a different language, it picked up. How are you guys comparing to something like Whisper, for example, which is, has been in this world of ASR for a while, and was pretty dominant up until a moment ago?
So I'd say what we think we do better than Whisper is that we support more languages. It's over 90 different languages, which are much lower word error rate as well. So you can throw a lot of different, like very complex terms at it. When I was testing it, I was like talking to it about code, and it managed to pick up things like initialisms and actual code as well, and was able to transcribe those in a very realistic way, which is great. And also, it's very fast. It's the average latency is 150 milliseconds.
Oh, wow.
I've seen it go lower than that. It kind of depends as well what language you're speaking. But for the English model, which is one that kind of like the flagship language that we used, I've seen it go down to as far as like, 80, 90, 100 milliseconds before to get a response. So it's super fast, which is really fun.
Yep. This is awesome. And first of all, congrats on the release. We love ASR here on ThursdAI. For some reason, some of the hosts have been playing with ASR for a while, and like every new release and excitement, we definitely want to cover this. But also like real time. I think Whisper is not real time at all. You have to wait for Whisper to process. You have to put it up. This is really, really fast. And then looks like you're beating competitors like DeepRam and Assembly. And from a company that doesn't necessarily do only this, it's really, really super cool. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. If folks want to find out more about this or play with the demo, you want to shout out some of the folks, feel free. This is your kind of like your...
Well, levellabs.io will be the place to go. You can actually play around with Scribe on the site there as well, a little demo. Shout out, I guess, just our devs Twitter accounts would be a good one to follow. Just levellabs at levellabs devs on X.
Awesome. So we'll definitely add those to the show notes. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. As we move on to this week's buzz, folks, for folks who are joining the show anew, we have a corner. So obviously I work at Weights and Biases. That's now part of CoreWeave. And we have a weekly corner here that's called This Week's Buzz, where we talk about everything Weights and Biases. For this corner, I'm not alone this time, because somebody who built a cool thing in Weights and Biases is joining us, Dima. So let's go to this week's buzz super quick. Alrighty, in this week's buzz, I'm joined by Dima from the SDK team here at Wandb. Dima, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Alex? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you as well. I think you shocked the company today in the all hands when you presented something super, super cool. We posted about this, but I wanted to call on you to actually do the cool little quick demo on this week's buzz here on ThursdAI. Would you tell us, first of all, feel free to introduce yourself and what you do on Wandb, and give us a little demo of Leet?
Sure, let's do that. I'm an engineer at Weights and Biases, so I've been with Wandb for almost 4 years. I'm on the SDK team, import Wandb, that's us. So your friendly Wandb SDK developers. From time to time, we should do something fun, right? Something to spark joy. So this is pretty much exactly what this is about. This is a little side project that we did over the past couple months. So I'm pretty excited to share with you guys. Yes, so the problem statement. Okay, so imagine you're building your foundational model, but the problem is that it's running on an air-gapped HPC cluster, so no internet, man. And in addition to this, as an introvert, you get naturally anxious when leaving your terminal. So what you do? Okay, behold the lightweight experiment exploration tool, or LEET for short, Wandb Leet.
We shall be able to see it.
Okay, so let's start fake training experiment offline. So, okay, I promise no internet. Right.
So right now you have a training script running with it's not logging to Wandb at all, right?
It says that it's okay. It's in offline mode and the data is saved locally. So what you do, and you don't want to leave your terminal. So, okay, you go into your other terminal, Wandb beta Leet. Let's try and see if it works.
There we go. It does work.
Okay, wonderful. So like I said, the main purpose of this tool is to spark joy right here in your terminal, but it also provides access to real-time offline metrics for your run, again, delivered straight to your terminal. You could see your system metrics here, and this whole thing is interactive. You see basically the stuff you would normally see in your...
Before we get to features, for folks who are just listening, some folks who are listening in the car, they can see this. After you ran the training run script, you're now seeing a terminal UI. Basically, with no web browser, nothing. You just like run the command, Wandb Leet. It's going to be out of beta soon. And what you're seeing is a full visualization of all your runs and metrics, very similar to how weights and biases kind of graph works. Obviously, we do a bunch of other stuff, but this is fully, completely offline. If you're in the air-gapped HPC cluster, if you're training a very secure machine learning model somewhere, this is possible to you even now.
First of all, it's just beautiful ASCII art. Who doesn't like ASCII art? There's a whole bunch of stuff here. Yeah, so you would see your run overview, you know, information about your environment, config, summary. You would see the main metrics screen that you could configure. Like if you don't like the grid layout, you could change that. And you would see your system metrics. And then in this example, I'm logging something like not too many metrics, like 1,000. And then you could, of course, scroll through them real quick, but you're not expecting me to scroll through all this. So you can go ahead and filter them. And for example, look at only your train metrics. And then you might be wondering, like, what's this weird spike on this train/loss plot? And then you could just zoom into it with your mouse. And
that's so cool.
This spike looks suspicious. We should probably do something about that. Yeah, so it is available. It is available now in the latest Wandb SDK version 0.23.0. As always, you know, stay tuned for more. And I just want to give a shout out to the entire SDK team.
We also want to give a shout out to the whole entire SDK team and you, Dima, for not only building cool things like this and coming to ThursdAI talk about this, but also maintaining one of the, if not the most popular machine learning experimentation framework out there, Wandb, which everybody knows and loves. So shout out, Dima. Thank you so much for joining us and showing us a demo. Folks, again, this is Wandb Leet. Dima, what does Leet stand for again?
Lightweight Experiment Exploration Tool.
Lightweight experiment exploration.
1337.
Wandb Leet. So TUI in your terminal. Folks were asking, Jeff was asking in the comments, how is it offline if Dima is broadcasting it to us over the internet? We are simulating an offline use of Wandb, but in Dima, in your script's case, you don't send it to weights and biases. You're logging to a file. And
in fact, you don't even need a Wandb account, actually. So if you turn it to offline mode, you could just...
Don't tell them. But yeah, you don't need to. Dima, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to continue with the show. But if you are training machine learning models and you like TUIs, this is now available to you. Wandb Leet. This is the actual command, Wandb Leet. We have some documentation about this. We're going to list as well. And if you've used Wandb and you like the SDK, Dima and the SDK team are the folks to thank. So thank you, Dima, for joining us. It's been great to see the cool stuff that you release. All right, folks, we're going to continue. I'm going to bring back some folks here. Dima, thank you so much. We'll take you off so you can continue supporting the SDK and say hi to the SDK team. We're going to continue talking about big companies and APIs.
Bro, that was cool. That was cool.
I agree. I have it open here in case Dima couldn't make it, and I played with it. And it really is like, it really, really is nice.
Really searching for it right now. I don't find it on GitHub, so it'll be useful if you just post the link somewhere because I can't find it and it's really cool.
Yeah, so I'll add this to the banner here. All you need is the latest weights and biases version. So pip install -u Wandb, and then all you need is Wandb Leet. This is the command. And then after we remove this from beta, it's going to be just Wandb Leet. You run this in any folder that has weights and biases running, and then it will just work. And it will look super, super cool. I think that like screenshots of loss rates and spikes are like very viral for some reason on Twitter. I think we can move on from this week's buzz while welcoming Nistan as well. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about, including big companies and APIs. So we covered voice and audio. Let me just finish the voice and audio part and then we'll move to big companies and APIs, because in voice and audio, there's a huge release from this week, also from Meta. And folks, I think that we've talked to you about this multiple times. This is actually not Meta. This is Facebook. Do you guys remember Facebook, which rebranded to Meta to include the Instagram, whatever? But Facebook, I think that actually like the blog is on Facebook or something, or somewhere it like on Hugging Face or something. This was like a Facebook pin. Basically, they're on a mission to remove language barriers from the world, and have been doing the great work at that for a while. And this week, they released something called OmniASR. This is a speech recognition. We just talked about 11 Lab Scribe, which is an ASR model as well. This is speech recognition real time. They support 90 plus languages. OmniLingual Whisper, the one that they compare to, also supports around 99 languages or so. OmniLingual ASR is a speech recognition. They released a bunch of models as well. It supports 1,600 plus languages, 500 of them never before served in any type of ASR. So the low research languages, significant low research languages. They have a character error rate of less than 10% for over 78 of their supported languages. The lower the character error rate, the better transcription quality is. They released a bunch of models with this. Some of these models are actually thinker models. What is important to understand about ASR, something like Whisper has no intelligence at all. When OpenAI released Whisper as a concept, this was not an LLM. This was like a standard machine learning regression, whatever model that knew nothing about what it transcribed. They released a bunch of fine tunes for their omnilingual ASR that are actually smart, and they're using the smartness to kind of like improve significantly the model performance. So we can take a look at this, and they released all of this in Apache 2. So huge shout out to everybody on the Meta team for releasing first of all, a cool ass demo, the full data set. They have released a bunch of transcribed. They paid a lot of people to go to these like remote places and talk to these people, transcribe that, and they posted a data set about this. The data set, I believe, is called Omnilingual ASR Corpus, and it's 500,000. This is almost a terabyte of transcription, 500,000 rows, 550,000 rows of just like language and audio. So we will not be able to hear, I believe. Give me a sec. Actually, there's a new feature where you can hear if I just share a screen, which I want to try. But folks, you may hear yourself. So hold on, please. But do let me know, maybe in chat, if this is working.
That thing is really impressive.
Yes. And then you see the ProText. So this is like a huge data set, which is also honestly a huge release. But besides the data set, they also released a bunch of models and this beautiful visualization globe where you can see a comparison of the 600 languages that we have. Okay, I'll just go and show you the thing myself. They have, where's that demo? I have this cool ass demo and it's queued up. This is like a visual comparison of the languages support in something like OpenAI Whisper and OmniASR. Visually, you can see like the crazy thing. I wanted to cover this last thing. In context learning, they talked a lot about training these models to basically one-shot understand languages based on provided information, so without training the model. And they're showing this insane graph where they can go all the way up to 504,000 supported languages. I did not know there's so many languages existed in the world right now, where because it's an LLM-inspired system, it brings in-context learning into the whole fold. So you can like give it the context of like a diary or something like this of a language that it didn't see before, and will be very good in-context learner because these LLMs are getting significantly better. And I think that this is pretty much it. Everything is Apache 2 language exploration demo. This is the one that I wanted to show you.
We got models and we got demos. You can try it live, actually. Okay. It's very hard to visualize the table from Hugging Face. Okay, so we got a fleet of models from 300M to 1B, 7B, and all the way to the 7B zero shot, which is, I assume, the one that can do in-context learning and get a bunch of examples for a new language it never saw and generate and do speech recognition. I just want to say Whisper large, the large one is 1.5 parameters. So, and it's absolutely usable in real life. People might, the obvious thing people are going to say about this is that, okay, 7B model for speech recognition is quite a lot. Okay, it's going to be good, but if you compare the 1B model is phenomenal, state of the art on its own. Basically, nearly a drop-in replacement is the Hugging Face model. It's built on Fursec. You can just use it. Probably you can easily plug it into faster Whisper or other supporting frameworks and use it for speech recognition. Absolutely amazing. Seriously, absolutely amazing.
This is a huge release from Meta, and we definitely wanted to cover this. All right, we're finishing up the voice and audio, and it looks like we're going back to open source. LDJ just came back in with some breaking news. LDJ, you want to cover this after the opener? AI breaking news coming at you only on ThursdAI. we are actually moving towards the big companies and APIs segment, which we wanted to get to anyway. All right, LDJ.
Yes, so Qwen just released, and I put this link in the side chat. It's a new deep research model. They had one a few months ago, but this seems significantly better. I'm looking to see if they have comparisons posted against other popular deep research models. Overall, it looks good just in terms of search depth, average report length of researching for. That alone seems about doubled, along with how much it's able to do with that time. Really good.
Yeah. And so the comparison points would be OpenAI's deep research and Google definitely does deep research. And honestly, for folks who have been doing deep research, less and less folks are using this because these thinking models are now doing a lot of tool calling sequentially as well. So this is essentially what deep research is. Some deep research uses different strategies for like even deeper stuff. So we can definitely test it out on the show. Let's take a look. Qwen has been doing deep research for a while. Let me bring it back.
Yeah. Apparently they have a faster version too, so they have a normal mode that is, they say, efficient and versatile for most needs, then an advanced mode for the deep research.
Yeah. Even deeper research. Right. We are now logged in and we'll take a look together, I believe. Okay, so now I need to click the actual deep research link from them, which is here. They have an app as well. What is this app thing? They have a Qwen app for mobile, only on Android. And the desktop has a Mac OS as well. We're going to take a look. Shout out to Qwen on this release. So I want deep research. Where is it? Now that I logged in, I don't see it anymore. Deep research, advanced. Okay, I'm in. Give me a research topic to take a look at, folks. I'm gonna go to Hong Kong for a week, and you help me plan an itinerary departing from Beijing.
To be clear, this is not an open source model.
No.
Can this platform work and do deep research on data? I don't know, like data that upload, or it just plugs into the internet?
I think you can upload data as well. There doesn't seem to be any connectors here for deep research, like Gmail or something like this. Next week. So it does ask me the same kind of follow-up questions, very similar to ChatGPT Deep Research. And then this looks like to be based on Qwen 3 Max. The thing is, Deep Research takes a while to run, but we can see the research planning stage and we can take a look at some of these thinking. And
we're clicking the possible connectors in the chat.
Looked, and there looks like to just upload. Okay. So basically we have the detailed site pane here, and it asked me when do I want to go. I said next week, and it already in the thinking process knew that today's week is this one. So like it figured out that next week is pretty cool. And it asked me about budget and stuff. All right, so we're gonna have it run because deep research usually is not a very good visual demo. But we'll move on to other big companies and API news because we're running out of show and we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. All right. I want to cover Grok 4 Fast super quick. And Grok Image and Banana is something else. But Grok 4 Fast, they keep talking about Grok improving. And it's really interesting. And I don't like it. Not the model itself, but you guys know I go on some rage conversations here about Grok. I don't think that a foundational model should upgrade a checkpoint as the same number. Like, I don't think that Grok 4 should improve. Grok 4 should stay fucking Grok 4. And if they want to improve and release another version like Grok 4.1, which can compare between the two, this is how most of the other foundation labs are doing. This is how I think it should work. Why? Because then we can actually quantify the difference. What happens now is they literally just improved Grok 4 with the first version of Grok 4 Fast, but then they improved Grok 4 Fast with 2 million context window, which is great. Folks listening to the show, it's great. Thank you so much for this work. It's really impressive to have support 2 million tokens in the context window. You're one of the few to do it. Even Google stopped. Gemini was supporting 2 million context window for Gemini Flash Lite, whatever, 2.5. And then for 2.5, they stopped and they supported for 2. It's great. But stop updating the model without giving it a new version. We cannot evaluate this against each other. We cannot know if it's better or worse at different things. This is what happens there. Elon Musk says something about, hey, update your Grok app weekly because it gets like daily updates. But Grok 4 Fast now has 2 million contexts. It's ridiculously fast. It's really ridiculously fast. It's really, really good. The thing that I wanted to show before, which is when somebody commented that Alex is like agent maxing, is I have plugged in Grok 4 Fast here into my workflow to prepare notes for the show. And now I have Grok 4 Research Agent. The thing I wanted to call out specifically is that Grok 4 Fast has a XAI search ability that is not matched by anyone else. Right? So because of the incestuous relationship between X and XAI, Grok 4, which is XAI's product, can search X with semantic search, which you cannot as a user. You just can't. Like, it doesn't work for you. The search does not give you this ability. It can search top quotes, which also API does not give you. You can do it in the UI, I found out recently, but via the standard API to X API that you have to pay for, you cannot get the top quotes. You cannot get semantics. So I wanted to actually like show the Grok 4 is not only, and the reason I'm calling this out is because we mentioned this before where Grok.com can do this, but on the API it wasn't possible. The API was not connected to X, but now it is. And the things that it does is stuff like, I want to show you. So this is an example of the H company tweet that I sent. We sent it to Grok with reasoning, and we told it, hey, basically, if you want to see my prompt super quick, it's kind of like this. It's a big prompt, but it's fine. You're a research intelligence X searcher. You have access to these things. Here is the summary of the tweet made by a user, and here is the settings. You do X search from date to date. I'm basically saying from the date of the tweet until today, and then enable image understanding. So Grok, not only can it search, it can look at the images in the post and understand them. It can also do video as well, and then it returns something like this, which is a example of the tools that it ran. It ran this query, and then it ran the view image query. So like it actually looked at this image to understand it, and looked at another image to understand it. And then it did a keyword search where it took this ID and then it gave me the top quote tweets, for example. And then it did a semantic search, something that you, again, as a person cannot do. All of this happened one after another, and it did a bunch of other stuff as well. And then it looked for reactions. This is insane. It gave me like a deep research with all these links. All of these folks are basically talking about H company. Let's take a look if this is correct. Sometimes it fails, but most of the time it's correct. Like it's semantic search, and then gives you like a very deep researched article based on X data. So Grok 4 Fast, really worth playing with. If you're playing it with an API, it can access web search as well as X search. So you can do like a bunch of default research as well. And I have implemented this into our research flow. And it's very cheap as well. I think it's significantly low. So this is an example of how much it costs to run Grok 4 Fast on Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index. Grok 4 Fast takes around $32, comparable to where something like DeepSeek and Mistral Medium. This is the reasoning one. And the performance on the index is around higher than DeepSeek and Cloud 4 Opus. So we don't often shout out Grok, and they don't often release and tell us the new stuff, but it's really, really worth it with 2 million contacts as well. Alrighty, moving forward. The main release of this week, folks, OpenAI released GPT 5.1, the first dot release since the major release of GPT-5. This one has warmer conversational defaults. They have instant and thinking modes, so adaptive instant and thinking modes. So GPT-5 instant can basically like reply super fast, and I think preset personalities. Have you guys played with it? What's your first reactions to GPT 5.1? Let's start with Wolfram.
Yeah, it's actually my most disappointing release of the week, and in a long time. I tested it, just my vibe checking so far, but it is much worse in German. It's
No way, really?
It's terrible. So it's a big degradation. I'm back to Sonnet 4.5 now as my main model. GPT-4, I still would use that before I use 5.1 Pro. I'm disappointed, unfortunately. It's a German language understanding. It's terrible. It even removed the umlauts from my text because I had something about don't use typographical special characters like dashes. I had that set in my prompt, and it even removed it. So I was really, really disappointed about this, unfortunately. So I will test it some more. Maybe it feels like a quantized model from China, actually. My feeling right now, I would use Kimi before I use this.
And which one did you use? Did you use instant or did you use the thingy one?
It was mostly with instant, so I had a direct comparison to 4.0. I will do some more testing with the thinking model, but the instant, it felt like a flash model from Google or something.
Interesting.
A smaller one.
What are your comments? Have you played with GPT 5.1 at all?
That first, I think that it's an absolute push in the right direction. GPT-5 is a great model and gets stuff done 100%, but it can drive you crazy by the amount of it not being communicated. When you try to just let it do stuff and have conversation with it. You really feel it in Codex, where sometimes you ask a question like, what do you think about this and that approach? And instead of answering the question, the guy just goes and starts doing the thing. Like it's not communicating enough. And so I really do think that it's really pushing the right direction. And everyone knows what the public opinion was the GPT-5 release, even though it's a great model. There is something about GPT-4. I personally just my use cases are split between, if I want to get something, scientific done, I go for GPT-5, usually GPT-5 thinking. If I want to get, something more phrasing text or help me write it, more of my idea into coherent text I can send to somebody, I just immediately go to 4.1 because it's really good. And Dash, oh yeah. Absolutely.
We have a comment from Milos in the comments that says it's good to see that it's M-dashing in German as well, as we showed on stage.
Now the new model misinterpreted the prompt and removed the umlauts as well.
Don't you think it's a prompting thing that you have to readjust the prompting to a new model as well?
Yeah, sure. I have to check now, but the prompt works in the other models. The same one works in Gemma and in Gemini, and it works in Sonnet and everywhere else. Only here it doesn't work.
Yeah. So a few of the actual things we know. So we don't know evals. OpenAI did not release any evals about this model at all. Didn't compare it anything.
That's odd.
It was a weird release to that extent. They did say, for example, that they've added these personality drop downs now. So you could have done this before with your own kind of customization prompts, but now we have something like the default one: professional, friendly, candid, quirky, efficient, nerdy, and cynical.
On the setting the entire time. I don't know if this specific dropdown, but the personality thing, which is completely isolated from your system prompt, was on the internal setting for a while. And I did try to play with it. I even tweeted once that, why don't you let me add a custom one like all the others had? I mean, that's a good push in the right direction, but just let me customize it. Okay. So we have it open in the drop down, and we have more personality.
Dude, I played with them, and I don't see the difference, honestly. Like maybe it needs like a new test or something. Like I honestly don't see the difference. I keep it on default. Maybe my custom instructions are here. I remember custom instructions were interfering with the advanced voice mode, so I kind of like don't really like get excited about them. But yeah, we need to test this more. They also mentioned that it's great at creative writing, and for this, we actually have a confirmation that this model was
first on EQ Bench, absolutely.
EQ Bench,
100%.
yeah. So EQ Bench from our friend Sam Peach, well. This checks.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Claude Sonnet 4.5. I love this model. I'm not a fan of Anthropic, but this model, it's still my number one. And Gemini 2.5 is behind it, and Kimi is great as well, but not German.
So this model is confirmed to have been tested on OpenAI as Polaris Alpha. This is the model. It's slightly better at different things like coding. It's not necessarily bigger, but for the ELO score for creative writing, it's around the top one in creative writing. And I did notice this, and we'll see today. I'll test it out for some of the summaries for ThursdAI, and we'll take a look. He has also a slop score, and you can see that Gemma is the highest slop LLM out there. And you can analyze your own text. So you can see if GPT-4 is getting more slop.
If you are an LLM.
What else do we have as reactions from the community for OpenAI? Let's take a look. They made it easier to customize. I think that this chart, we should mention this. They did release this thing. GPT 5.1 spends less time on easy tasks and more time on hard tasks. And here's an example of GPT 5 standard versus GPT 5.1 standard. And you can see the 10th percentile of tasks, which is like the very low, like, hey, how are you, for example? It's not a task, but it's like a very, very like low example. GPT 5.1 spends 57% less tokens on answering this, while on 90th percentile of difficult tasks, GPT 5.1 spends 71% more tokens. This is quite a big difference. Now, we don't know how they measure this, and we always give them some shit for evals. But if this is true, Wolfram, I think that this is a very big difference for this model, because this is what we want the thinking model to do. We want it to like give you a lot of reason when it's difficult and react instantly. Quick X enrichment summary from Fijisimo, a warmer, more conversational personality. So essentially, I think 4.0 was one of the models that when OpenAI decided to remove, people got really upset. And I think OpenAI since then has been chasing the lightning to like bring people the same kind of warm personality. I haven't seen this yet. I will say, I think they've been testing this inside Atlas for a while, because I've noticed for the past week while chatting with Atlas specifically, the Atlas responds faster and better for me than regular GPT-5. And we know that they're A/B testing like crazy. Sometimes you get this model, that model, especially in auto. And I noticed myself like just opening Atlas and just chatting with the GPT there versus the regular app. So folks, play around with this. Probably going to be a significant update in some of your stuff.
I want to get a Mac just because of the way you speak about Atlas. Seriously, I want to
Yes,
get
sir.
a Mac just
Yes,
because
sir.
of this, man.
Comet is pretty much the best agentic browser there yet. Okay, let's talk about SEMA 2. SEMA 2 is really, really interesting. SEMA is Google DeepMind's release today of a AI agent for 3D virtual worlds. Gemini powered for the first time. They go beyond the basic instructions. They actually do perform tasks in the world. I want to show this because it's super cool. And we've talked about this a little bit before. They are showing game engines like No Man's Sky, this goat simulator thing, and SEMA is playing those games, and it reasons about the visual stuff in those worlds. They call them embodied agents, and supposedly this is like a great playground for robotics. So this shows like a bunch of stuff. Minecraft, everybody plays Minecraft, but everybody who plays Minecraft, they take screenshots of the screen. Here's an example. A user says to this model, find the object drawn in the sketch and jump on top of it. And they sketch out like a spaceship. And then SEMA answers, okay, I see the crash ship. I will jump on top of this. And this is another example of the reasoning part. They basically took Gemini and baked it into SEMA, the agent that is able to play worlds. And this is another example. They said, go to the house, call it like a ripe tomato. And SEMA answers, okay, I see the house. It looks like a tomato. Go in there now, and then goes to the red house. The reasoning part of this is like very Gemini powered. So user wants me to go to the tomato house. I'm going to go to the tomato house. And this is, it's hard to overstate how interesting this is when it fully understands the games.
It's connected to the real-time thing that controls the actual game. Sounds cool, but
yeah,
how something called like touches the actuators in real time. It can't be. I don't think it's a chat model.
It supports chat, but I think they have controls that are connected, like mimicking a game controller. I'm pretty sure that this is how it works, because it knows how to control this game controller as well. So it was trained to achieve high-level goals where you can just give it a general understanding of the goal of the game, and it will go and control this. Here's the example of the self-improvement part. It supposedly also learns from mistakes as well. Actually, Google showed us this a little bit. So the agent, keyboard and mouse, not a controller, at least based on this graphic. It goes, it tries to play the game. There's another Gemini agent that is the task setter. So basically gives it out the tasks. And then they have a reward model figuring out whether or not they did the task correctly. So they have like a self-improving system, which they're supporting, supposing that this is like another step towards AGI type thing. This game engine is playing games for real. And the cool thing is, if you guys remember Genie 3, which is the world model from Google, this and Genie 3 together means that Google can generate virtual worlds and then have agents run and play in these virtual worlds for minutes on a time, if not more, and then learn from this and then keep generating the worlds. It's pretty crazy. We're obviously still waiting for Genie 3 and they be able to play with this. I haven't yet. Really excited. But here's an example of it playing a virtual world generated in real time. We'll take a look at this for a second. But again, I just want to tell you like what's going on in this video here. This is an AI agent playing in a world which it understands visually that was generated by another AI. This is like absolutely insane what we're getting at this point. Complete fabrication. None of this ever happened. This is an AI agent that played the world that was generated. No 3D engine was involved in what we're seeing besides the learning part. Isn't this crazy, folks? Isn't this like absolutely mind-blowing that it creates games on the fly? I'm just absolutely shocked by this.
Look, it is cool. I really like the part where you have both reasoning running through an LLM, which is smart 100% and can plan and so on and reason and find objects and so on. But something like it needs to connect somehow to something, I don't know, presses the button. Just for example, there was another paper. The first paper I saw that tries to do something like this was on GPT-4, the first one, called Voyager. What they did is play Minecraft with GPT-4. And it was really impressive. The way they did it is GPT-4 writes small snippets of code. Yep. And the code is the one that is actually like, it's automated code that touches, like, presses the button and move forward and so on. And it makes sense because GPT-4 that generates the code. But here you're talking real time. And then on simulated environment, I get if you close somehow the loop, you can simulate environment that, I don't know, simulate robots and so on and train robots. And so it's crazy. Don't release vague stuff, guys. Like, you did something cool. Tell us how cool it is. We want to know the details, like how you did this. Why don't you just tell us? That's really, really cool. Seriously.
So we have a technical report from them coming soon. It's not available yet. Google, this is an announcement from Google, like a research announcement. They have an agent that plays games and it plays them well with visual understanding, not only screenshots, but like actually understand what it does. We are moving towards the end of our show. We have some stuff to mention in AI. We mentioned Cursor raises $2.8 billion. Insane amount, just absolutely insane amount. Just, I don't know how it makes sense for $2.3 billion at 29.3 billion valuation. Cursor, the VS Code clone that is now used by pretty much every major lab, including us. Yeah, we also use Cursor. And then I want to talk about the image edit. I want to try those things live. Wolfram, would you want to help me with this? Qwen Image edit. Have you guys seen this? So basically, we're done with big companies in LLMs and APIs. Google also has like an AI shopping update. The updates that we're waiting from Google are the 3 variety, and we still haven't seen them announce anything 3. We were waiting for today, but hopefully very, very soon. So we're moving on from big companies APIs. We have about 5 minutes to cover the no video, a bunch of ThursdAI's no video updates, major ones this week, not even from Sora. But the main update came from Qwen Image Edit. It's a multi-angle LoRa's that add super cool. Let's go here. So shout out to Linoit Saban from Hugging Face. You can upload an image, and we'll upload an image of Wolfram. You want to be
spaceship and turn around me.
So we'll take Wolfram's picture here, and then we'll drop it in the thing here, and we will see. Okay, we have Wolfram and vertical angle. We're gonna do like a. Okay, so we're showing. This is the actual Wolfram, and this is Wolfram from below the angle, and we can. This is a vertical angle. We can switch it back up. This runs super quick. And then you can see Wolfram from the top. Now we're showing you Qwen edit image with LoRa's, and you can see that we see Wolfram from the top. It correctly guessed how he would look from. Actually, I don't know. The headphones probably not quite here, but I think the cool thing is that we'll see like interpolation video now. I don't know why I decided to give you like a camera that you pull out of the blue.
Turn the camera to a bird's eye view, and it took it.
Using Kling behind the scenes as the first and last frame. And so it gave a first and last frame. Okay, so I have this picture of my cat from this side, and then let's also generate a bird's eye view of this cat. You can see that like this is the same kind of steps and from above, and then we're gonna generate a video interpolation. So folks who are just listening, again, this is a Qwen Image Edit, the new LoRa fine tunes for Qwen Image Edit, and Hugging Face has released a bunch of demos, and you can use these LoRa's to change the camera control, and you can also rotate a little bit. So I actually rotate a little bit, so you can probably see the cat from like another angle, like this. And I think it's really, really cool for different reasons. And we can see the video. Look at this. This is beautiful. Only like a short video, but still, it generates like a little 3D scene type thing, and it looks pretty cool. All right, so this is Qwen Image Edit. You can find it on FAL as well. I think the folks from FAL added all the LoRa's. So they have 9 specialized LoRa's for multiple angles, next scene and light restoration, camera control, and portrait generation, remove elements, add backgrounds, a bunch of other stuff. Remove element works pretty cool, different remove lighting. And the last thing we have to talk about is NVIDIA releases Chrono Edit. Chrono Edit is an upscaler, is the model that gives you a more beautiful version of your model. This is how it looks. So here's an example. I just wanted to show you Chrono Edit is a creative upscaler. Creative upscaler means it adds details to the images that you see, and it can do a bunch of stuff like add image. It can turn stick figures into anime as well, change people apparently. But NVIDIA is releasing cool new things, and shout out to NVIDIA as well. Folks, I think this is it. This has been the show. It's a very interesting week in AI for sure. GPT-4 5.1, I need to keep up with my numbers, is probably the biggest highlight. We had folks on the show from 11 Labs. Paul has just joined us to talk about the real-time Scribe version of 11 Labs, which is their ASR model. We had Dima from the SDK team talk about Wandb Leet, obviously with you, Jan Pelik and Wolfram and Alex Volkov. We also had Nistan and the LDJ. Next week is going to be a live show from AI Engineer Code in New York, which I need to get ready for. So we'll see a bunch of stuff. Probably Ryan Carson was going to join the live stream there, maybe Swix. If you have any questions for any folks in the AI Engineer Code, there's a bunch of all of the major labs will be there. We'll try to find some cool guests for the show as well. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have missed any part of the show is turned into a podcast and newsletter under ThursdAI.news. Feel free to subscribe, share with your friends, and give us 5-star ratings on wherever you get your podcast. With this, thank you so much for joining this week's ThursdAI. I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone. Cheers.